Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Nonprofit Learning Lab for today's workshop. If you have any questions along the way for our presenter, you can type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel, likely on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have any tech questions, you can also type them there. If you're interested in using live caption for today's workshop, you can use the link we will send in the chat shortly. If you're interested in receiving the recording and materials for today's workshops, you can visit our free webinars page on Nonprofit Learning Lab's website, or you can email us at program@nonprofitlearninglab.org. And without further ado, I will now hand it over to you, Shannon.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about 6 proven strategies to help increase your donations this year end. So I know that it's December 6th, but all of these, everything that I'm going to talk about today can apply not only to the rest of the year, but it can apply really quickly. So if you're still thinking about your end of year and should we throw up a year-end campaign just to try to get some engagement, maybe tell a story, you still have tons of time for that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. As for myself, everyone calls me Shan, mostly because we have another Shannon here at Fundraiser and it's still a small company. So to avoid confusion, we call me Shan. And I am a crowdfunding and digital fundraising strategist. So I not only help nonprofits start campaigns and write stories and plan out any kind of online fundraising campaign that they have, but I also help organizations start fundraising strategies for the year. I help creators with crowdfunding campaigns on our other platform, Crowdfunder. And I also help medical clinics and patients looking for a device or medical treatment crowdfund for medical purposes. So that's me. And a little bit about Fundraiser itself. Fundraiser has been around since around 2009, so the dawn of modern crowdfunding. And since that time, we've helped raise over $250 million with over 200,000 campaigns in, I think we're up to 47 countries now. It was 42 a couple of years ago, but I think we're up to 47 now. So Fundraiser itself is the platform designed for nonprofits, so social causes, anyone who wants to raise money for a cause, whether or not that's professional or individuals. And our entire mission is to make this as free or as close to free as we can. So that's why we have multiple pricing models that are designed for whatever works best for you as an organization. And we offer my strategy work complimentary for nonprofits. So my job is to help you be as successful as possible on Fundraiser because that makes us successful, and also because I like seeing good causes and good changes in the world. But what are we going to talk about today? So before we get into the success factors, I'm going to screw that up a lot, so bear with me on that. We're going to talk about some more high-level strategic components of a campaign that cannot be forgotten about, or else these success factors are not going to work. And then we'll go right into those success factors. And then at the end, I will show you how you can create and launch an engaging year-end crowdfunding campaign in less than a day. And then, of course, at the end, we're going to have, I'll try for at least 10 minutes of Q&A. So let's get going. The strategic components of a campaign. So this is what they are in a nutshell. So whenever I talk to an organization who's new with digital fundraising, I start essentially with this wheel here. So these are your strategic components. These are what you really need to think about when you are running a digital fundraising campaign. And I've broken it down to you in some very quick resources so that we're not going to spend too much time on this, but don't worry, there's a ton of information at your disposal in our help centers, in our fundraiser hubs, and I'll show you where you can get those. So the first part of those strategic components are storytelling. Storytelling is arguably the most important part of your campaign. And that's because this is how you're communicating what your impact is. And unfortunately, I do see a lot of organizations still throw up, this is our organization, this is how we started, and this is what we believe in, which is all great. Don't get me wrong, that's very valuable information. However, that's not what your campaign is about. A campaign is about a problem and your solution to that problem. So very quickly, your storytelling consists of 7 steps. And these 7 steps can be found in our fundraiser hub. And at the end of this presentation, I'll show you how to get to the hub. But to break it down quickly, step 1 is your opening line. And that opening line is grabbing your reader and taking them out of whatever frame of mind they were in going into your campaign. So, maybe they were just reading an email from a family member that they would have rather not heard from. That is not the frame of mind that you want a reader to be in when they're reading your campaign. You want them to agree with you. So an opening line is simply an agreeable statement or maybe a rhetorical question that gets your reader thinking in the same frame of mind that you're thinking. So a good example of this is an organization that I've worked with out of Ontario. They are a mental health facility, and they wanted to run a campaign to help children who were really stressed out over COVID to get them the resources that they need. So their opening line was, when COVID started, each and every one of our mental healths were affected. And I don't think that there's anyone in the world who can disagree with that statement, whether or not you were directly affected by COVID, indirectly affected, or not affected at all, but it was still going around. So that's what I mean by an opening line, is you want it to be something that your audience can agree with. And then the other steps are a little more self-explanatory. So you want to clearly state your problem, your solution, and a little bit more difficult is to identify the gap between your problem and your solution. And that is not funds. Everyone assumes that you are looking for funding. That's why you're there. But the gap is, you have that problem, you have that solution. What is preventing you from saving the world right now? And that usually equates to, what are you using the funds for? And if you read the article about our storytelling guidelines, then it goes into more examples on that. And then you want to make supporters the hero of your story while trying to utilize units of impact. Units of impact are breaking down your ask into more manageable amounts so that your supporters can understand the value of their donation. So, for example, if you're a homeless shelter, maybe you have 100 beds in your shelter, but you have to turn away 20 people every night. So your gap is essentially, you need those 20 extra beds. Your unit of impact is 1 bed costs $100, just for argument's sake. So that is what I mean by units of impact. Give a bed for $100, or give some blankets for $25, that kind of idea. And then you want to give a quid pro quo. What are you going to give your supporters in return for their donation? And I don't mean physically what you have to give them. What I mean are updates. Now, updates are a continuation of the story. It doesn't necessarily mean, how far along are you in this project? It's any kind of valuable information that you can provide your readers to help them understand your organization, your cause, your problem a little bit better. So a good example of this is with animal shelters. A lot of them will show bios of their animals. So, here's Fido the dog. He was brought in from the street. He had worms and he had some major behavioral issues. So we treated him, we trained him, and now he's ready for adoption. So that's the kind of update that you can give. It's not an ask for more money, it's a continuation of your story. And then the last part is your call to action. And this should be plural because you always have at least 2 calls to action. One is to contribute, that's the obvious one. And then the next one is to share. Digital fundraising and crowdfunding is all about the share. And we always forget about this. You want to ask your supporters to share your campaign, because when they get into reading it, they might assume that. But by the time they're done, they're going to think, yes, I want to donate, and then they'll contribute, but they'll forget to share. Our fundraiser platform is designed to help coach your donors into the sharing process, but they still need a little bit of a nudge. So make sure you make a clear call to action at the end of your story asking for the share. So those are our storytelling guidelines in a very quick couple of minutes, but I urge you to go to our fundraiser hub to read the rest of this article and get a little bit more information on why these components are so important. The next part is an attainable goal. So especially if you're going to have a quick campaign, like a year-end campaign, you want to make sure that your current audience is big enough to support your goal, because your best bet, if you're just thinking about starting a campaign right now, is to have a campaign that you know you can be successful at, because it's a good story to show your supporters and say like, hey, in your end, you know, you helped us reach this goal to help us do this. And that's an amazing thing. And that is a great feeling to start off the new year with. So in order to determine if your audience is big enough to support this goal, I've created what's called the divide by 5 rule. And this is a very general rule. This is absolutely not the be all and end all. But essentially, your current audience needs to be as big as your goal divided by your average gift per donor divided by your conversion rate. So your audience size is X. Your goal is whatever you want your goal to be. If you know your average gift per donor, then you can put that in here if you like. But if you don't know, then you can use fundraisers average gift, which is about $100 USD. So if you're in Canada, then you might want to convert that to Canadian, but a good general number is $100 per donor. That's what fundraisers average gift is. And then your conversion rate is how many people saw your campaign versus how many people donated. And again, if you've run online campaigns before, you might have an idea of what your conversion rate is. But if you don't know, then again, you can use fundraisers, which is around 5%. So in order to make things simple, because who wants to do more math than you have to, 100 divided by 0.05 is 5. So in order to get your audience number, you need to take the goal that you have in mind and divide it by 5. So if, for example, you want to run a campaign with a $10,000 goal, your audience needs to be approximately 2,000 people big in order for you to probably hit that goal. So I hope that makes sense. Again, we have more content on this in our fundraiser hub, so definitely go check that out. And then the rest, I don't want to make it seem like I'm just rushing through the rest, but the rest is all about your promotion and engagement. So first is your promo push, so your pre-launch warm-up. We'll talk a little bit more about this because that's actually part of the 6 success factors. So that's your, you're teasing your audience and saying, we have a year-end campaign coming up, and then planning your initial push. So which people are you going to target first? And then how are you going to get past that mid-campaign slump? Because at first you'll see a ton of donors, and then you'll probably a couple of days later just see it go down to almost 0. So you need to have content to push out there, and it needs to be new content. It can't just be, hey, like check out our campaign again. So that's where updates come in. So push your updates, which will be something more that you can share, something more that your supporters can share, and maybe even bring them back to the campaign and donate a little bit more. And then don't forget about your after campaign engagement, which is going to be part of your retention plan. So thank your donors, tell them stories of reflections on this campaign that you have, that you're going to bring into next year, and then maybe tease next year a little bit So this is the engagement factor to help retain any new donors that you gained with this campaign. So those are the high level factors of a campaign that you really want to focus on before you push out a year-end campaign. But now it's time to get into the bread and butter of this webinar, which are what are the 6 campaign success factors. So Fundraiser got these based on data that we got from our over 200,000 campaigns. So we looked at those campaigns that were successful and we tried to pick out common factors that they all had that might push you towards your goal or more towards your goal. The first one are images, and this did not surprise us at all. Images will make you 21% more likely to meet or exceed your goal. And why this didn't surprise us is pretty simple. I mean, look at these 2 campaigns. Which one are you more likely to donate to? And you'd be surprised how many people don't think to put on a picture. So that's why we actually took off our default picture here so that we would push you more towards adding your own photos, because so many people were just using the default and it was not working, because that doesn't elicit a positive response in your donors. They would look at this one on the right here and say, is this campaign done? Is this real? Like, maybe this is fake, or maybe this isn't the right one. So it doesn't suggest to the reader that this is a real campaign. You want them to have an emotional response, for one thing, and you can't do that without an image. So your story should really pull on your supporters' emotions, but it's this image that is going to be the clincher for that emotional response. So what kind of image should you have? This is a really good campaign image. So this campaign is to raise money for research on a very rare childhood disease called PAX1. So this image has everything that we look for in a good campaign image. It's of high quality, and these are the dimensions that you should use if you're using Fundraiser. But if you're using any other platform, just make sure that when you upload your image, it's not fuzzy. So make sure it's of high quality. Have it indicate the beneficiary, so in this case, it's a child or children, and the problem, and it's a medical issue. But you'll notice that this is a happy child. You look at this and you can see that she's obviously in a hospital. She's obviously hooked up to something. She's got bandage around her head, but she's smiling. This little girl is a wonderful little girl. I worked with her mother on this campaign, and this doesn't elicit a negative response, which is probably a bit counterintuitive to what you are used to doing. So especially if you're Canadian, you might remember Sarah McLachlan's famous donate to pet shelters or humane societies. And they've got really sad images of puppies in cages. And all that does is elicit guilt in your supporters. Guilt of, oh, there's these dogs that are out there and they need help, and maybe that will push some people to donate, but some people, they're just going to feel bad. That's not the response that you want. You want them to feel good, because that is what's going to make them see your brand in the future and want to see anything that you do, because subconsciously they're going to remember that good feeling that you elicited. So that's why you want it to be a positive picture. Even if it's a sad story, you're hoping for a positive ending. So keep that positive emotion going. Make sure that it's in context, it's relevant. So don't make it just some sort of any old picture. You want to make sure it's relevant. Make sure it's yours. Do not use a stock photo. People will notice, trust me. And this one right here, this is just kind of a little bonus. And it's one of those things that may not be the be all and end all, but it's not a bad thing to consider. this girl is looking towards the contribute button. So our eyes are being kind of drawn in this direction, which is what we want. We want them to see all the positive things. So we want them to see like, this is our goal. This is how far towards the goal that we are, or maybe we've hit our goal. And hey, look, contribute button. This is what we want you to click. So just a little bit of added extra. Try to choose a photo that when you look at it, your eye goes towards the contribute button. Number 2 is videos. So campaigns with videos are 13% more likely to meet or exceed their goal. And you do not have to have a professional video. I get asked this a lot is, do we have to hire someone to shoot and edit our video? Absolutely not. You can use video apps with pictures that you can create as a slideshow, or simple videos you've taken with your smartphone, and then use a free app. These apps are free if you don't mind their watermark on the bottom of your video, and it's just a small watermark. And if you don't have much of a budget, that little watermark won't really take away from your video. All it's going to do is say, hey, I used Animoto to make this. And if you do have the budget, then these have very affordable, oops, sorry, something's happening on my other screen. I think we're all good though. These are just making sure that you're able to do what you like within your budget. So if you only want some basic videos, maybe 4 or 5 a year, I think it's only about $100 subscription fee per year. So it's actually pretty cheap if you want to get rid of that watermark. But they have some stock music that you can use and just kind of put together with a bunch of text and pictures from your phone or videos from your phone, and it's candid. That's actually better for you because people are going to relate more if it's a candid video. So we do have examples again on our fundraiser hub of videos. It does not have to take very long, 1 to 2 minutes. That's how long your video should be. 1 to 2 minutes, that's it. And it should tell your story. So your video should essentially be a shortened version of your story for the many, many, many people on the internet who don't have the attention span to read a story. Even though your story shouldn't be very long, we're battling with every other person on the internet who's battling for your reader's attention. So try to make it quick and punchy and tell your story. So this is where we get into the more specifics to fundraiser itself. But people who changed the default contribution amounts were 12% more likely to meet or exceed their goal. And this is for a fairly simple reason, and that's because if you if you click the contribute button, this is what pops up on Fundraiser as our default amounts. So it spans a wide variety of amounts. But what you should do, and again, this is on our Fundraiser Hub, what you should do is look at what your average goal is, or sorry, your average donation is. So whether that's $50 or $100, and that average donation plus about 10% is what should be pre-selected. Because, so say your average donation is around $40 and I am your average supporter. I click contribute and it immediately pops up with $50 pre-selected, and the other ones around it are either too little for me or too much for me. And I see $50 pre-selected and I was intending on giving $40, but I'll be like, oh, $50 is pre-selected, good enough. There you go, I'll contribute that. So it's a little bit of psychology. You're trying to gently nudge your donors towards giving a slightly more amount to help you grow your revenue. So I have created a worksheet that you can use to figure out what your default contribution amount should be. Again, in the hub. So check that out, and you don't have to do this, absolutely. But you might want to consider what your smallest and largest donations are at the very least, and then take off the ones that are lower and higher than that. All right, this one surprised us, but it when you think about it, it does make sense. So on Fundraiser, the default button says contribute, but you can actually change it. You have up to, I think it's 20 characters, and you can make that a little bit more specific to your ask. So essentially what this told us is creativity is a massive success factor. So if you get creative with your campaign, then that engages your donors more. It's making you stand apart from all of the other campaigns that they might read, and it might make them chuckle. It might make them, what's the word I'm thinking of? Connect more with you, I suppose. But basically, get creative here. And these are some suggestions and ideas that I've seen over the years, but you should essentially have an action word followed by what you want to be given. So feel free to steal any of these. Some of these are what I've seen other people do. Some of these are just off the top of my head. But basically, you have 20 characters to come up with a creative idea for your contribute button. And please tell us your ideas. If you think you've come up with a really successful one and it was really engaging, we want to hear it. So please share with us. And again, you're going to get the recording of this and the slides, I believe. So you will get all of these suggestions in the end. Timing is the fifth success factor. So campaigns that receive their first payment within a day of starting are 6% more likely to meet or exceed their goal. What this means is basically psychology, again, is a huge factor in campaigning. You don't want to see this. You don't want to see zero contributors or pledges if you're running an all or nothing campaign with a long running campaign. And don't feel bad for whoever these people are. This is a demo campaign. I created this on purpose, but I have seen campaigns like this. And it's heartbreaking, but usually the hardest thing for you to do is get your first donation. So in order to get that off of zero is to go to the people who you know are going to donate and specifically ask them privately to donate before you do your major social media or email campaign list launch. So for example, I volunteer for an animal sanctuary here, a rabbit sanctuary outside of Vancouver. And I have my colleague Shannon, who is very supportive in that. And when I started our giving season campaign, I went to her and I said, I know you've wanted to donate for a while, so could you please donate to that campaign and start it and get it off zero for me? Absolutely, yep, and she did it. So that's what you want to do. So whether or not it's your own family members, good friends, volunteers, your board members, maybe your board members can throw $50, $100 on there just to get it off of zero. But basically you want to try to push as many donations as quickly as possible, because that is what is communicating success to your supporters. And this is what's called social proof. Humans are more likely to do something if they see a lot of other people doing it first. So don't test this by jumping off a cliff, but you should test this with campaigning. So get as many people as possible donating before your major launch to communicate success to your new donors and the ones who don't know you so well. So that was the target your top tier audience first. That's the #1 way to avoid staying on zero for too long. The next is to set a target major launch date and stick to that date. So say I want to launch my campaign on Friday. Friday is what, the 9th-ish? I'll say it's the 9th. My calendar isn't working. We'll say it's the 9th. So say you want to start your campaign on December 9th. On December 8th, I'm going to launch it. I'm going to launch the campaign so people can donate it, but I'm not going to push it out to my email list or my social media yet. I'm going to target my top tier audience, get them to donate on December 8th, and then make sure that I do my major campaign push on December 9th. And I'm going to stick to that, and I'm going to make sure I do that. I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't do it today. I'm going to wait until Monday. Don't do that. Stick to that date, stick to your plan, make it look like you had a lot of donations right off the get-go. Another way to help you hit your timing right is to have a checklist. So there's a lot to creating a campaign, but it just looks like a lot. All of this actually takes a very short amount of time. And if you want to make sure that you have your campaign ready to go and you're not worried about missing anything, if you're using Fundraiser at any rate, then you can use this checklist. And if you follow this checklist, you will essentially have everything that you need, excuse me, everything that you need to get your campaign going. So again, you don't have to hurry and write all of this down. You will get these slides, but this is a good starting point to make sure that you will be ready to go on your launch date if you have all of this ready. And a good thing to do if you have multiple people who can help you with this is to have a due date for specific tasks if you have different people doing different tasks. So try to use this model of timeline. You can create your own, you can use this. But if you do have help, then use this to make sure that everyone is accountable for what they're supposed to be doing. And some of this is for after the campaign launches as well, like your first social media share, updates, even to change it to finish once your goal or deadline is reached, because that won't finish automatically for you. We don't want people to hit their deadline and then have it automatically finish and then have a bunch of people go, oh, I haven't donated yet. Because once you finish your campaign, once you hit that finish button, you can't restart it. So we don't have it end automatically for that reason. The deadline is just to give that sense of urgency. You have to physically end your campaign in order for it to be done. So just make sure that you have that finished going, because if you do another campaign on Fundraiser later and people want to look back on your other campaigns, they might see ongoing campaigns that have been going on for like a year. And if they haven't reached their goal, that's going to look a little not right. So you want to make sure that your campaigns are finished so that people know, okay, this is the campaign that's running now. This is how successful they've been in the past. So let's get them more successful on this next campaign. All right, and number 6 is updates. So this is why I didn't spend too much time talking about updates in the storytelling part of this presentation. Updates should be done approximately once or twice a week. And that's a very broad generalization. Maybe it's more for you, maybe it's less for you. But we did find that the more updates you have, the more likely you are to meet or exceed your goal. But that does plateau. So you see here that it kind of goes up exponentially. If you have one update, you're 1% more likely to hit your goal. But if you have 2 updates, you're 20% more likely to meet your goal. If you have 3, you're 33% more likely to meet or exceed your goal. After that, the likelihood, it does increase, but it plateaus a bit. It hits a limit. It's a limiting factor, if I remember that right from high school. So that's not to say you should stop. If you're running a campaign that's going on for 30 days, you should definitely have probably at least 4 or 5 updates. What that's going to do is it might not increase your donations more, but what it's going to do is it's going to help with your brand recognition. Because we as human beings are more likely to recognize something if we see it. It used to be 7 to 9 times. I've heard tell that now that's been updated to 8 to 10 times. But we need to see something 8 to 10 times in order to recognize it as a brand. But that has to be something different each time. It can't just be the same thing shared again and again and again. So that's why updates are so useful, because there's something for you to share, there's something for your supporters to share, and help people recognize your brand and your cause and what you do. And that will help you build your reputation and build your donor base for future campaigns. So don't take this as, all right, I'm going to have 3 updates and that's it, because then I'm going to be 33% more likely to meet or exceed your goal. No, aim for 1 to 2 per week-ish. And as long as you have something valuable. So again, updates are not simple asks for more money. They are, hey, we had a horrible pipe burst in our shelter and everyone is fine, but now our office is flooded. So, oh dear, things are going to be a little bit difficult, but we'll get through it. That's an update. Hey guys, we hit halfway towards our goal. This is the most money we've raised in 5 years of being a nonprofit. That's an update. The more specific you can be and the more entertaining you can be, the better. So Fundraiser's CEO and founder, Daryl Hatton, actually did a TED Talk on this idea. It's called Philanthropy in Entertainment. So if you look up TED Talk, Philanthropy and Entertainment, you'll find Daryl's TED Talk, and that's what it's talking about. It's use your stories, use what's going on in your nonprofit, in your life, as updates to engage your supporters and make it entertaining. You know, people love stories about individuals, about pets and other animals, about children and babies, about how you helped prevent this awesome forest from getting trampled over, I guess. Any kind of entertainment value in a story, it doesn't have to be long. It can be, 4 sentences and a picture. That's all it takes as an update. It doesn't have to take very long. Just make sure that it's new and valuable information. And you can have a planning sheet to help you. So some updates can be planned. If you know that, you're an animal shelter and you have 5 dogs with great stories, plan those updates. Some updates can't be planned because they happen as they happen. And then maybe you can insert one of those instead of the story about Fido. But you can try to plan updates and at least plan the posting date. So you have that end goal in mind, so you're not constantly pushing it off. Like I'll post that update tomorrow. I'll post that update tomorrow. Then before you know it, 2 weeks have gone by and your campaign has gone flat, and it's really hard to bring people back to a flat campaign. So try to plan them to reach your success. And that's the 6 success factors for a campaign. So those are what we found were the main success factors in our successful campaigns. And you might notice that they are all based around creativity and content. So that's really all you need, creativity and content in your campaign. You're not simply throwing up an ask on there and being like, hey guys, we help dogs, please help us help dogs. That's not going to get you a successful campaign. So aim for that creativity. And now we're going to talk about how we can create a campaign in less than an hour. And Fundraiser makes this super easy to do because as soon as you hit go, you get taken through our campaign creation flow, and it takes you through everything you need so that when you hit review my campaign, boom, it's right there waiting for you. So this is our homepage, our Fundraiser homepage. And then if you click Get Started Free, which will live right here, giant arrow, then you will get taken through this step-by-step process to create and launch your campaign. So when you start, it'll ask you for some simple details like, what's the title of your campaign? And then it'll give you some tips. It will ask you to write your story and your ask, add in your details, choose your goal and your deadline, and then review your campaign. You can ask for feedback from myself or other coaches. And then you can go through this entire creation process in 5 minutes. And then it will pop up your new campaign. You can edit pretty much anything right away. The only thing you cannot edit right away is if you have chosen a keep it all campaign or an all or nothing campaign. You can't choose between the 2 of those because those are 2 different types of campaigns. So you can't change a keep it all into an all or nothing. You can't change all or nothing into a keep it all. You would have to start the campaign creation process over again. which isn't a big deal. You can start as many as you like. You can start it and never launch it again. We don't mind. But that's just extra time. So make sure you know whether or not you want to keep it all or an all or nothing campaign. And then, once you go to review your campaign, you can review your story, you can change your story completely, you can add videos, photos, you can change your goal, you can change your deadline. It is editable. So don't worry about getting everything perfect in the creation flow. But if you follow along the creation flow and put as much information in there as possible, then you can have everything ready to go in an hour. Simple. We do have lots of resources for you to help. If you need advice, please email us. You can email us at cs@connectionpoint.com. Mention this webinar and we'll make sure we get to you ASAP. If you are planning a year-end campaign right now and you need immediate help, type SOS in the chat and Nonprofit Learning Lab will take all of those emails and they'll send them to me and I will reach out to you today. The last thing that you can do is join the Fundraiser Hub. So the Fundraiser Hub is our free resource for you to go on and join and not only get our plethora of resources and tools that I've created for you, but there's also forums and groups that you can be part of and talk to each other, talk to other nonprofits who are having the same kind of struggles that you are having or have success that you might not have seen yet, and ask each other, lean on each other, help each other. This is brand new. The Fundraiser Hub was only started this summer. So the conversations are just starting. So I urge you to go on, please start conversations. We're monitoring it. Ask us questions there. You will find Ask Me Anythings. Ask Me Anythings are where they're basically office hours. So we hop on there for an hour. You can jump on, you can go on voice chat if you want, or you can just type and talk to us. Ask us any question at all, whether it's about the platform or fundraising in general, anything that you like. So you'll see where those are in exclusives and AMAs here. Toolkits are downloadable kits for you to use and follow to help you create, promote, and manage your campaigns. I have a little blog corner right here where I write more extensively on why certain things are valuable, like storytelling, for example. This is where you want to go to find the art of campaign storytelling. Live webinars that we host, lots and lots and lots more. This is designed for you to use at will. So the QR code is there. Take a picture of it with your phone, or just go to fundraiser.com/fundraiserhub. It is a separate login from your fundraiser account. So you can make it the same email address if you want, but you can't log in with your fundraiser credentials. You'd have to create a new login for yourself. And I think I hit my goal. Ooh, 15 minutes for questions. Done. All right, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we had a few questions come in. So our first question is, will the Fundraiser Hub articles mentioned earlier be available, or could you share those?
Right on the hub, right here, I'll go back to there. So everything I mentioned is in toolkits. And if you want details on storytelling, like how to tell a story, more extensive examples of each of those guidelines, then go to Shan's Corner right here. And the blog post is called The Art of Campaign Storytelling.
Great. And then our next question is, how far back should we go in terms of reaching out to lapsed donors for our year-end campaign?
So everyone's definition of lapsed donors is different. In sales, a lapsed client is usually someone who hasn't contributed or bought something from you in about 2 years. So super lapsed is usually up to 5 years. I wouldn't go that far. For a year-end campaign, I would stick to within the 2-year mark personally.
Awesome. And our next question is, how do we balance Giving Tuesday and a year-end giving campaign? Should we target donors who give lower levels for Giving Tuesday?
So I actually wrote a blog article on this that's in Shan's Corner, and I do put a bit of my own personal opinion in there. So this is my opinion. This is not fundraiser's opinion. I actually don't know what fundraiser's opinion is if we collectively asked each other, but I don't personally like Giving Tuesday campaigns that are only Giving Tuesday campaigns, because Giving Tuesday was born out of, I'm sure you guys know, Black Friday and then Cyber Monday. So it was, look at all the money we spent, maybe we should give some of that away and help the world. That is that is contributions based on guilt, which is not what we want to go for. So I always suggest have a giving season campaign where you start on Giving Tuesday and you run it until the end of the year, because that is more of a true storytelling campaign where you will be able to have updates, where you will be able to communicate your success more and more and more. Whereas if you had just a Giving Tuesday campaign, you would have a smaller goal. So one that you absolutely 100% know you can hit. And yeah, you basically want to target all of your average donors, I guess. So the ones that would give your average amount, not necessarily the smaller ones. Although yeah, I guess those would be your smaller ones. So yeah, you're targeting the ones that would be around, your average donor base plus or minus, about 10%. You're not necessarily targeting your major donors like the offline ones. You're just targeting your online community who may or may not have gone crazy on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. That's a bit of a long-winded answer, I suppose. I'm sorry for that. But the short of it is, if you've had a Giving Tuesday campaign, you might have milked your audience a bit dry. So if you've done a Giving Tuesday campaign, I'm not sure I would suggest a Giving Season campaign. If you did not do a Giving Tuesday campaign, then I would suggest having a Giving Season campaign where you start now-ish and you run it until New Year's Eve.
Perfect. And then our last question is, how do we integrate snail mail with our campaign?
One way you can integrate snail mail with your online campaign is to put on the QR code. So sorry, my browser is being a little bit weird here. So I am going to pull up a campaign. Can you see this here?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is Fundraiser. This is the campaign I'm running for Rabbitats here. Who doesn't like little cute bunnies? So if you go down right here to link to campaign, you have a QR code. So you can put both of these onto your snail mail, and you can either have people donate right on the campaign itself, and they can just, take a picture with their phone and they'll get this QR code, or you can put in the link and they can type the link in. Or if they donate to you via check or cash, then you can actually put in offline transactions. And I'm not going to show you the transaction menu because there's private information on that. But if you click transactions here, there will be a button that says add an offline contribution. So you can add an offline contribution on. It's for free because a transaction has not actually taken place online through your payment processing. But you can still account for that outside donation in your goal here by just saying, we've had $4,000 of offline transactions, but it's towards this cause, this problem, this solution, and you can add it on there.
Perfect. That's all the questions we have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I really hope that I get to talk to some of you soon.
Thank you, Shannon. This workshop has come to a close. If you're interested in receiving the recording and materials from today's workshop's free webinar, you can visit our free webinar page at Nonprofit Learning Lab's website, or you can email us at program@nonprofitlearninglab.org. Thank you so much for participating. And again, thank you so much, Shannon, for educating our community.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.